So tell me, Graham, we're mid-century modern design diary. This is episode 3, and I'm with Graham from Anchon et Jolie. Probably the wrong pronunciation.
Very close.
And he's just gonna talk about how he got started and what he actually does. You know, how he does his take on mid-century modern and decorative art. So I'm gonna hand you over to him.
Hi Moses, thanks for having me on. Well, basically my take on antique dealing, I probably would say, is a look across mostly the 20th century and a strong focus on that mid-century range. You know, sort of for me, I like the phrase early mid-century. You could say so. The modernist persuasion, something that starts maybe in the 50s, and I'll probably deal with anything up to late 70s.
So would you say that you're the new blood of the decorative and antique and stroke mid-century?
I'd like to say there's like a movement,
right?
But I think strangely, it's a very self-reverential business, and the old boys, no offense, like yourself,
like
the veterans,
yeah.
the veterans is still everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody still looks up to them and wants to see what they're doing. And so it's more about sort of pushing kind of a bit the status quo, and we're all just trying something and seeing what sticks.
We're kind of putting our own footprint on something that's gone before, and what I love seeing people twist it and turn it, and you kind of look and think, oh wow, that's interesting.
Definitely, it's another form of self-expression. I always say to my friends, my peers, like, who in different careers, they're like, how did you get into it? I didn't know you were creative. I didn't know you had it. I was like, I'm kind of not. I wish that I was more creative, but basically I wasn't actually able, when I came to paint or when I came to make something with my hands, I had such a perfect idea of what I would accomplish, and I wasn't able to impart that on the material. But finding things that are done was actually a revelation for me, because I was like, I can see the beauty, I can see the difficulty, I can see the technique, and I can see the whole story. And the more you learn, the more you uncover.
That's right.
And it's like, there is a matrix moment where you go, wow, like this is real. And I love that feeling of going, like, you understand how something's arrived to you in that condition at that point in time, and you realise that it's just kind of meant to be, and that is special.
And also when you put things together, you know, you can have a table, you can have a sofa, you can have a vase, but it's the way you as an individual put it together that makes it completely different from how somebody else will put it together.
It's like a DNA. You really can't, as much as people say, oh, I did that first, it's like, you really didn't, because basically everything that led up to that point was a completely different journey. And so your aesthetic sort of fingerprint DNA is way different.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why it's actually so like interesting, especially in London right now, because everybody's got a different take on it.
It is interesting. It's interesting. Doing the mid-century modern design diary, it's opened my eyes up even more, because I'm going into different people's different spaces, and it's how their fingerprint on furniture design. It's quite interesting. So tell me, we're going to do five of your lost and found, 5 of your
lost and found
infinity souls. So we're going to do it in reverse order. So we're going to start with number 5, and I think Graham's going to tell me his number 5.
Number 5 is maybe quite fittingly these 5 modernist sculptures that I found in solid oak. Really like interesting, really like tactile, beautiful pieces.
Heavy,
big, you know, up to 1.20 m, like some of them are really chunky, but they sort of had a Barbara Hepworth moment about them.
Right.
And basically I made friends with this old wood artist in Gloucestershire, and he invited me to his workshop. And it was basically, he used to be a tree surgeon, and he used to save bits of tree that were just like really like kind of crazy shapes, and he used to, instead of like cutting a tree like to be like just logs or what have you, where everyone else was just trying to get the job done, he's like, why don't we save those 2 branches, and why don't we save like the bit that does that? And then he would emphasize his sculpture and his furniture from those
Right.
pieces that he then milled. Just walking around his workshop, I was just like, "What's that?" He's like,
Right.
"Oh, I just had a go at that," and he's like made some like beautiful like solid oak carved out like by hand,
Right.
like absolutely stunning thing, and I got 5 of them.
So you put them all together.
I put them together, and they immediately sold to
Yeah.
somebody in the trade.
Right.
But the guy, because I said to him, I was like, for me, this is like finding a Hepworth, or like,
Right.
like because he knew who she was, but he didn't know that that's what he was doing. But I could see that,
Yeah.
and he was, I gave him a really generous offer, and he was just like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like I don't think that. I was like, honestly,
Yeah.
let me it's all good. And I basically, he's tried to retire several times,
And you keep
and
doing
I've started
drawing,
commissioning
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
So that was also I love that interpersonal relationship.
Mm.
So that was massive for me.
Right.
But finding those, I was just like, oh my god.
So how did you set them up? Did you just set them up like by themselves? Or
So
did you
yeah,
put
at the
stuff-
time I was renting a barn down by like this beautiful stream in Stroud in Gloucestershire, and there was just like a brick wall, concrete floor, like very industrial old mill building, and with a massive crystal window with light beaming in literally at an angle,
Mm.
and I just shot them like in a row, sort of like Usual Suspects that line up.
Right.
And I didn't clean them. I barely took the dust. Like literally just plonked them down, and they just like all have their own personality.
Wow.
But they're really stunning, and something that I would have loved to keep, but I'm trying to also level up. And everything has its price. Moses.
You've got to sell it. You've got to sell it to buy more stuff.
Exactly, and it keeps going. And I have bought stuff back from people before, but I'm not a collector. I'm a dealer. I have to.
That's what people
keep
got
going.
to understand. There's this love of the piece, but also you've got to sell it.
Yes,
So it can continue. So that is number 5, which we're going to take a look at and see how beautiful it is. And when we come back, Graham's going to tell us how much he sold. So Graham, tell me, how much did you sell?
How much I said. So I actually ended up giving the guy 600 quid, and I sold to somebody in the trade, and I knew that they were kind of keeping most of them for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said 1,200 is fine.
Yeah.
So I just doubled my money,
This is,
and I didn't do any work. I appreciated them. I knew that they appreciated them because it
Yeah.
actually. So I was the conduit to a collector
yeah.
who deals very well, but they
Yeah.
love keeping some stuff, and I know that they're in their collection. So actually, that was really good for me.
Yeah.
Some
Appreciation of somebody that appreciates. the piece.
somebody appreciates them.
Yeah. No, that's
So that was a nice turn, and also I get to tell the old boy also it's like somebody in London really liked these, and he's like, that's in his sort of West Country accent, he's
Yeah.
like, that's made me up. It's like, finally, Graham, I'm in a gallery in London, and I'm like, yeah,
somebody appreciates.
yeah,
it.
I know. So that was really sweet, and so yeah, that was.
So that was your number 5.
That was my number 5, correct.
And your number 4?
Number 4, I'm not doing this on purpose, I promise. Number 4 was 4 Eames soft pad chairs.
Ooh.
Really nice.
What would they?
They were fixed.
Okay.
They were Herman Miller.
Have a minute.
Herman Miller, but they were mint, absolutely mint. And
They were in black leather or
no, they were in tan.
tan.
They're in tan, and they didn't have arms,
Mm-hmm.
but they'd literally never been satin.
Wow.
And there's a story behind that. And basically, I bought them from the original owner,
Right.
who started a engineering business back in the 70s. And their office was in a big converted sort of warehouse, and they're in Bath, above the old Herman Miller outlet down there,
Right.
basically. And he started this engineering business, and he thought he was going to have lots of executive meetings, had to fit this out, it's all going to be
You
this
gotta have
and
a
that.
dream.
And then basically he said the construction part of the business took off,
Right.
and the engineering office just got left
Oh.
like a time capsule.
Wow.
And they just bought the stuff literally from downstairs,
Yeah.
from the Herman Miller factory. Like, probably got quite a good deal for them, and then they just left it.
there.
Just sat there, never sat in.
Wow.
So they were mint, completely mint, and I actually, someone put me onto him. It was quite a long story, but it was at a time where it was around COVID, and I'd heard the price, and it was really high, and I was kind of like, what am I trying to be a collector? Do you know what I mean? Because if you spend too much on something, you're never going to trade it out.
You can't sell it.
But something like that, for me, I had a difficult time wanting, like I didn't, like a lot of these things, I don't want to necessarily sell them, and I could see them in so many places, but they're a beautiful thing.
Do you know what I've done when I've had a situation like that, when I bought something that is so hard to sell, I've usually like hired it out or trying to get it to do shoots and just keep bringing it back, and then eventually I think, okay, I've got to sell this.
That's quite smart.
Yeah. I've tried because there's a few things that you just know once you sell, chances of finding them again.
Thing is, I find they'll be around. You just have to pay more for them, sort of thing.
Yeah, but in tan, good condition.
Yeah.
That kind of number.
I actually, another dealer really wanted to buy them from me, and I'd sort of like said, maybe you come up and have a look. And in the time that he pretty much
Umdenard.
Private buyer just took full retail for them, and
moved on.
And I was just like, sorry mate, turn around,
go on.
But anyway, it is what it is.
It is. So we're gonna look at these beautiful tanned Herman Miller Eames chairs, and we're gonna come back, and Graham's gonna tell us how much he sold them for. I don't think he should tell us how much he paid for them.
That's how much I sold them for. Nice. Okay. Well, I like the transparency.
You don't want people to choke on their cornflakes, don't you?
What? I don't mind either side, to be honest, because I'm pretty upfront about my pay stuff. But I think I sold them for 700 quid each.
That's a fair price.
That's a really good price.
That's a fair price.
He's buying all four. Nice guy, and basically it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I think that could even be a trade price. Do you know what I mean?
The last time I looked, they were a little bit more than that, and especially they were tanned, and especially they had.
And this wasn't that long ago, but this is my whole thing. Yeah. It's like I'm not trying to hold on. Like I have to move fast in my business because my taste is moving quicker than the taste of our customer. Do you know what I mean? It's like I do feel that.
Yeah. It's good. It's good to turn it over.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, the website looks fresher.
Yeah. And I think I had them 3 days.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the way I bought them, the way I had to move, and actually being in London space is at such a premium.
Yeah.
You think you're getting a really good price for something, but not as you've stored it for 6 months.
No. See, that's the thing that people forget. Storage costs money. Yeah. And the length of time you have it is ticking away. If you do a mathematical equation,
which we never want to do, Moses.
No.
How many parking tickets did I get last month?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're moving on to your third.
Number 3. Okay. Another piece in tan leather, and something that I absolutely loved was a Tito Angoli sofa bed. Like the one with the arms that fold out and the back comes down, and then it's all level. And this was actually an eBay purchase, basically, an Italian eBay purchase.
Right.
And it was last summer or 2 summers ago, I happened to be at a barbecue at my friend's birthday, the end of August, and her partner's Italian. So obviously I get the guy on the phone to my friend Riccardo, and they start having this like really long-winded conversation, and it's really heated and like all this stuff, and the guy's just like, my friend sort of like is on the phone, he's just like, you know where it is, right? I was like, yeah, it's like Northern Italy somewhere, isn't it? He's like, man, this is up a mountain.
Oh God.
He's like, you don't realise, like, it's got to go down on like a cable car to get to a road. And I was just like, what? And I was like, why is that my problem? And he's like, he can't sell it if it's up on a cable car. So I was like,
that's the only entrance into
this is, yeah, it's like a cabin, like some sort of ski lodge or something.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was that no big vehicle or something like this.
Right.
But he had to basically disassemble the sofa, take it on a cable car with his son. He was telling my friend the story, how it was going to play out. And the more he spoke, the more I was just like, this is
a bad deal.
This is going to be a nightmare. And anyway, in the meantime, I'm like, okay, but this is a beautiful sofa, and I'm just like, I want it. Like,
what colour was the sofa?
It's tan leather as well.
Okay.
Tan leather, really nice patina, like, you know, it lived, but it was it just relaxed. You know when it just relaxes, and it had that little like kind of sheen to it. It just had everything going for it, and I immediately phoned my transporter, and I was like, dude, when are you next in Italy? He's like, I'm there tomorrow. It's like, do you want it? And I was just like, yeah. Yep. So before I'd even got the cable car and all of that stuff thing, I was just book the driver, send the guy his money, and leave them like. And the conversation went on, and I knew the deal was done, but they just carried on like confabbing. It was quite funny.
It will work itself out. It will. Sometimes it is complicated, but it will work itself out. So we're gonna have a look at this. We're gonna look at this fantastic sofa, and on the other side, we're gonna find out how much you paid for it.
Nice. So, what I sold it for was £3,000 straight.
Right. Which is probably a fair price again, really.
It's probably not a bad price.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, I really like dealing with trade, because actually, if the trade wants it and they see it and come in person, they know what they're getting.
Yeah.
There's no ifs or buts. You're not having to explain anything. Like if they've seen it and they've done an inspection, it's theirs, and they're going to be happy with
that. Yeah, they know it's a business, so they know what they're going to do.
They know what they're going to do, and for me, I love that transaction. And it's the thing that is hard is obviously to get the price where you're both happy.
Right.
Obviously, usually, but I think it all worked out. Obviously, there was this story with the cable car and the whole getting it back from Italy.
See, now, if you had to sell that retail, you could put that into the sales pitch.
I know. I don't know if it would help it or hurt it. They'd be like, "Did that come from up the mountain? That little scratch?" Or like, but yeah, that was nice. It was something that I had for 2 days, 3 days,
Wow.
like. So it's sort of
quick. You didn't have time to even.
No, I didn't even.
Brace it.
No, I literally. Yeah, I just didn't even touch the ground.
Yeah, sure.
Which is good. It did touch my foot because I once dropped on my foot and
That
really hurt.
Yeah, that would have hurt.
But yeah, I like that thing a lot.
So,
Number 2. So basically, in a field in Cheshire, just started to rain. Not great for preserving antiques, and everyone gets a little bit cagey, what have you. Find this really interesting chair. It's basically 1930s constructivist plywood chair.
Right.
Like I said, label said £30, and I couldn't argue, and I couldn't deny, and I just gave her the money. And she said, "You come back for it." And I said, "No, I think I'll take it with me."
Just in case.
Just in case. And the friend that I was with at the time was like, "Oh yeah, I saw that. Didn't know what it was." And I was like, "You don't see it," sort of thing.
Yeah.
And everyone was scratching their heads, and I brought it back to the van. It's like one of the only things I bought that day, and they're just like, "Really, Graham? Like, come on! Like that doesn't look comfortable. That doesn't look this." I was like, "You don't get it. This is like." I was like, I even knew right then, that same day, I was like, I never want to sell this chair.
Yeah.
I love this. Like, this is everything. Because it had the paint, it had wear, it had like, it was obviously just a one-off. It was just a really good, like handmade, like
So how would you describe the chair? Someone who'd never seen it. How would you?
Somebody who never saw
how
it.
would you describe
I'd say it was almost architectural. Like it looked like the exoskeleton of a building.
Right.
It was like, it's sort of like a suspension bridge, sort of opening and closing,
Right.
and it had this slat which you could remove and change the angle of the reclining back,
Right.
and that was the only bit that was missing. But we sorted that out in the workshop, and we got something sorted. Anyway, the reason I mentioned the market, the Spotlight Market before that, was because this was the pride of place
Right.
in the show,
Yeah.
and I was so happy to have it. And within like 30 seconds of the market opening,
It's gone.
it sold.
Yeah.
And
So
then
you were right.
I was right, but maybe I was wrong. And
Yeah.
anyway, I ended up selling it. But the reason that I love this story is that basically it sold to somebody who deals a fair amount and is a very good buyer. She in turn sold it to Max Keys.
Oh.
Max Keys then sold it to another dealer in France.
Uh-huh.
Then he sold it to somebody in LA. And this was all in the space of a week.
Yeah.
It went through 5 people's hands, from the lady in the field in Knutsford to the west coast of America. And even on from that, because it was such a recognisable chair, it ended up going in auction in New York and selling again.
That's when it gets a bit scary, doesn't it? When you start,
Yeah.
you don't want to look at the price when it
No.
gets to that stage.
But I'm so happy. Everybody along the way made a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, well, that's how the business works.
That's the
You
life.
can't, and
yeah.
maybe I undersold it, or maybe I oversold it. Depends who's asking. But I just love the fact that everyone appreciated it. They wanted to just own it for a bit,
Yeah.
the custodian thing, and then flip it on.
You wonder where it is now.
I have a feeling. I was tempted to bid.
Oh yeah, it could be. It could be in somebody's collection now.
Yeah, it could be in the collection.
Yeah.
And anyway, do you want to?
So I mean, that sounds interesting because that's how the kind of antique and mid-century business works. People buy stuff, and sometimes it just goes. Sometimes it goes round in circles, and sometimes it just goes up and up and up and up. And I've seen it so many times. So we're going to have a look at this wonderful piece, and going to come back, and he's going to Graham to tell us how much he sold.
Well, you know what I bought it for. I sold it for £300, and I thought it was fair.
I think I'm going to come and shop here. You know.
Yeah, the truth is, I loved it, and like I said before, I wouldn't change too much about how I priced it. I love the thing.
Yeah.
But I know how I work. I need cash to be working for me, and this was a time just out of lockdown, and everything on my stand was to sell.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't want anything to go back in storage, and I would, if I knew that was going to be the life for it, I would have sold it for 50 quid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I was just like, I'm never going to get a better sort of journey of, an example of how the trade can work. It's an international trade.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful thing when you think of it.
Yeah.
It's taking recycling to another degree.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's been looked after for a while and just going up around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
So
we should get some cheers, really, some inserted cheers for number one.
Number one, the little drum roll. Number one was really one of the ones that I never ever wanted to sell, and I knew that from the moment I saw it. I was at Peterborough. One of our, it's no longer with us, that fair, is it? Unfortunately.
Yeah, no.
Which I really enjoyed. I was at Peterborough, and there was a guy walking down the road, past the barns, and I'd not really found much that morning, and I was, it was about 9 o'clock. I felt like I'd been there forever, since 6 or whatever.
Like we do.
And somebody had said to me, should have got here yesterday, Graham. Thursday's the day that all the trade buy. And I was just like, well, I'm here now, so it doesn't really help me. I was like, why are you here? Anyway, guy's got an Alvar Aalto cantilever chair slung over his arm like it's a saddle or like it's a bit of fishing, like tackles, like literally just like that. And I was literally just like, my eyes just went like,
straight to it.
And I was just like, this lucky guy, he's just found this thing. And like in my head, I was just like, I was kind of like, I was trying not to react.
You don't always. I've done it a few times, but you don't always go to people that've got something that you want and say.
Because you have to have a discussion with yourself.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, this guy. I was kind of trying to work him out. I was like, I've never seen him. Is he a mid-century dealer? Like, is he? Like, all of this stuff was going through my head, and he's just walking past me, like looking at my facial expression, just like, this guy's obviously off his. Because I was just like, it's like going a bit like doolally. I was like going to talk to him, and then I was like, no, you shouldn't. He's obviously bought it. He knows what it is. You know, like all of this stuff was running through my head. I didn't say a single bloody word to him, and he walked off.
Really?
And I was just like, oh, Graham, you know. But you know, we have to constantly pick ourselves up, and go again, like within 5 minutes. Yeah. So I was just like, well, if that chair's, you know, something that someone sell at this market, I'm going to get lucky with my own thing, and I'll find it. 10 minutes later, that same chair is sitting indoors.
He's selling it on
a stand full of like Murano glass fish and ornaments, and that's the only bit of furniture he's got. It's an Alvar Aalto 1934, dead original, everything about it perfect chair, and it has a label on it.
Wow!
It has this big old label on it with a, it knows what it is. Looked it up on First Dibs.
Of course.
£3,750 was the price on it, and I was just like,
what are you doing?
I was like, you do realise like this is where all the animals like go like bed at night. You know that isn't, that's like manure and hay, and like that's where you put the chair sort of thing. Anyway, I didn't start with any of that stuff, but I said, oh, I thought I saw you leave, and like I thought you bought. He's like, no mate, I'm selling it for a friend. Yeah, he's done a house clearance and he's trying to get rid of it. He wants silly money for it. I've just taken it to somebody and asked them what they think they should put a price on it, because that's not the price it's going to sell for. And I said, okay, what price do you think it's going to sell for? And he's like, about 900 quid.
Don't move too fast.
And I was like,
don't move too fast.
Mm-hmm. But this was really early on in my career,
right.
And I'd never spent £900 on something.
Yeah.
And I think I probably only had a few £1,000s in my whole bankroll that was meant to do everything for me. So to buy one thing, I immediately was like, I can't, I was having this whole thing started up again, because I was like, I would have kind of loved it if it stayed at £4,000, because I would be nowhere near it.
You could say, okay.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. I was like, that's for somebody else.
Now you've got to make a decision.
Immediately get on the phone to my friend Abel, and I'm just like, dude, are there bronze round-headed screws, like flat head but with a domed rounded top, and what orientation, this and that? Sent him some pictures, and he's like, buy it. Right. You've got to buy it. Yeah. And I was like, do you want to buy it with me? And he's like, I can't. And we both were just like, oh. And like, I love him for, it was actually not 10 in the morning, it was 8:30, and he picked up to me, so that was legendary. Confirmed that it was legit, even without a Finmar stamp or a label or nothing. Said it was like proper, and I actually got the guy down a little bit, because I literally emptied my bank account and gave him all the money in it, and I said, "That can you just take all of that?" And thankfully he did, and that was amazing. And it was one of those moments.
You remember it though? It's one of those kind of buys.
It was nearly 4 years ago, and I literally. The whole morning, and that's the only thing I bought the whole market.
That's all you need.
Do you know what I mean? And I had that, and I was just like, and what was hilarious is my friend was just like, "What have you done, Graham?" Like, because I was sort of sweating buckets.
You bought a bit of ply.
Yeah, it's like I just spent like all this money on a chair. It's like it's like, oh, Graham, you're not
going to last long.
Yeah, because I was sharing a ride with him as well, and he's just like, "Oh, it's quite a good chair, though, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, it's not too bad." So yeah, that was my favourite purchase, but yeah,
Yeah, but some I used to be of the when I used to go to those fairs, especially like Line or Europe. I used to always feel like I had to fill the brand to make it justified.
Not true.
But as you go on in life, you realise it's definitely quality, not quantity.
Well, we always say like, could I live with it? Do you know what I mean? Because worst case scenario is you never sell it and it ends up at home.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's no point in having stuff around that you don't want to have around.
Right.
Just because it's part of like a movement or a trend. It's like, if I didn't love that design, then I wouldn't have bought it.
Yes, indeed. That's a good number one.
It's a very good number one.
And we're going to find out what you sold it for.
So, as I said, I emptied my bank account to purchase it, and
so first of all, did you sell it quick?
Yeah, I sold it really quick.
Yeah,
I sold it the next day.
You would have.
Yeah, I sold it the next day to somebody in the trade who's actually a collector, but basically, I sold it for $16.50. At the time, it was 2018, 19. I think it was pretty cheap, and I think it's a popular thing. But now it's incredibly hard to buy that stuff any sort of price. But
things have moved on, haven't they?
They've really moved on. But the thing is, even if I had that chair now, I couldn't afford to keep it. Unfortunately, it would be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
But I have to trade things.
And it's nice to have touched it.
It's nice to have touched it. It went straight to, it actually went to my bedroom. I'm not even joking. I was just like, no, this is not, because I was in a house share. I was like, there's absolutely no chance. Yeah, exactly. Are you buying this old shit? I was like, yes. Anyway, I had to explain it to a few people, and as soon as they saw it, like my girlfriend's parents, they were just like, this is amazing. And
I actually don't understand how he managed to produce that in the 30s with the technology that there was around to shape that chair.
He was as much an engineer as anything else because he developed the machinery to do it.
Yeah, because even if you fast forward to the 50s, when Charles and Ray Eames were trying to experiment with chairs like that, they were having problems with
big time. And they had the budget coming out of they had all that funding.
So it's when you hear the story of the chair, it's quite amazing, really.
Yeah.
And you had a chance.
I had a chance to own it. I also know where that one is too. I just don't think I'll ever be able to get it. But
and that was a short word.
But I sort of also I have no regrets. It was an amazing find time, and I'd do it all again happily. And I'd probably sell it a little bit more expensive, but I had a really good time doing it.
It's been good.
Yeah.
Your top 5.
Yeah. And there's about 50 others if you want to stay till after hours, Moses.
It's just fine. And that was number 1, and you've been great. Thank you so much.
Nice one. Cheers, Moses. Thanks
and that was Mid-Century Modern Design Diary, episode 3, and hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to leave you for Graham to tell you his business, the right pronunciation, and where it is.
Yeah. So I'm Graham Abbott. We're Ancien et Joly, and we're trading out of 70 de Beauvoir, which is in Haggerston in Hackney. And you're welcome to come and have a look at the gallery if you can see a bit of it around us. And that's it.
See you soon.